Hello everyone and welcome to my corner of the world. Today I'm going to share with you triple layer stamping, a technique which gives a 3D effect to your card and makes it look as though you've got stamping on different layers, and whoever receives it would perhaps wonder how you did that. So I'm going to start with my stamp set, and I've chosen to use Tuscan VineYard today, and it's got some lovely images here, and I think that probably this would make a really good guide card. I'm also using the Itty Bitty birthday stamp set. The VineYard stamp set doesn't have any greetings, and so this one has got lots of nice birthday ones, and I've chosen to use this one, the It's Your Day. So we're going to start with our supplies, and I've got 2/4 sheets of vanilla cardstock, and then I've got these other pieces of card here, and basically the measurements aren't sort of critical, with the exception of making sure that your layers are about 1/4 inch bigger than the card that you're actually going to stamp on. And so what I have here is 4.5 by 3.25, and then this piece is 4.25 by 3, and then this smaller piece here is 3.5 by 2.25, and then this piece is 3.25 by 2. So that gives me my layers, and then this 1/4 sheet is 5.25 by 4. Now you don't need to necessarily remember all these measurements, because there's a link underneath this video to my blog, and I'll spell them out there. Now you're going to get some snail, and we're going to be stacking these pieces of cardstock together, but we don't want them to move. So we're going to put a tiny little amount of the snail adhesive in the middle. I don't know if you can see that, but the light just catching it there. You don't want much, because all you really want to do is to hold it. It's like a tacking stitch. Those of you who are into sewing, it's like tacking your pieces together. And then another tiny bit in the middle there, and then my third piece is going to go on top. And I'm just making sure that they're just layered evenly. I think you can just see the shadow there. And then I'm going to get myself a piece of paper, and then my stamps. So you start with the biggest stamp first, and so I'm using the grapes and Merry Merlot ink. Can't resist the idea of you having a card with a wine theme and using Merry Merlot. And I like to stamp in sets of 3. So I'm going to place my first one here, and as you can see, I've positioned it so that it hits all 3 layers of the cardstock. And then I'm going to bring another one in here, and then my third one I'm going to bring in from the side. Now you will notice that there is a bit of a gap in the ink here, where the stamp is sort of stepped up by the cardstock. Now you're not to worry about that, because when we layer it, we will lose that little gap. So my next image, I'm going to do the next largest, and this one is going to be the corks. This is like a little row of corks, and this one I'm going to do in crumb cake. So again, I'm going to put it so that it hits the 3 layers, and I'm just going to do once again 3. There we go. My next biggest one is going to be the corkscrew, and I'm doing this one in crushed curry. And making sure once again I'm catching the 3 layers. I'm going to try and do some of these a bit like upside down so that it gives me a little bit of variation there. So there. And then my final one is going to be the little, well, I can only assume it's like a wine seal. And I'm going to do that one in the early espresso. And I'm going to fill in my gaps. So I might find that I have just like this one is just on one piece of the card. This one is going to be here. I'm going to try and squeeze one in there without it looking too... Oh, I think you got my head then, I apologise. And then just sort of around the edges and just fill the gaps a little bit. So I think I'm happy with that. Now, once the stamping's done, you're going to separate your card. Now, you don't want to pick them up like this, because if the card curls, you'll break the fibres and it won't sit nicely when you come to put it on your card. So my recommendation is that you take it like this and you simply twist. And it'll come away without damaging the card at all. Alright, so there's my 3 pieces. And now I'm going to bring in my layers. So this one will go here. And this one will go here, and then this one will go on the card base, which is in soft suede. So I'm just going to put my crease in there. So I'm going to use liquid glue. I prefer to use it because it gives me some working room time, and because I'm looking to center this up here, I want to be able to give it a little bit of a shimmy around to make sure that it's nicely layered on that piece. And I'm going to make sure that I keep this piece to the top when I pop it down, so I know which way up everything is when I come to do my assembly. So again, just gonna center it up, make sure it's looking good, and then this piece will go on the card base. And there's just centered up. So my 3 pieces are going to stay like that, and then I'm going to flip these 2 over, and then I'm going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals to put them together. There they are underneath my ink pads. So I'm going to use the edges of my dimensionals. They work just as well as the whole ones. So I'm going to put 5 on the larger piece, and then I'm going to put 4 on the smaller piece. Like this. And then I'm going to build these up. So taking the backing off the dimensionals, I'm going to line this up so that my bunch of grapes matches here and down here and down here. And if I get my head in the way again, I apologize. So I'm also working to make sure my corks line up and my little wine seal here, and then just press firmly. And then with this one, and then again I'm making sure that my grapes line up and my little corkscrews there. And you can see now that the gap that I had in the ink between these two pieces of card here have actually disappeared behind the layering. So that's how you do the technique, and we're just going to finish off the card. So I'm going to use some soft suede, and this is a 1 1/2 inch paper punch, and the stamp is, as I said earlier, is the It's Your Day. So I'm just going to stamp there, and I'm going to use a 1 1/2 inch, sorry, a 1 1/4 inch to punch out. And again I'm going to use a little liquid glue and just layer the two together. And this is going to go here, but rather than guessing where to put my dimensional on the back here, I'm going to go ahead and put my dimensional straight onto the card. So I want it to go over this corner, so I'm actually going to put my dimensional here, and then I know that I'm not going to have adhesive hanging in thin air and stuff like that. So that's going to go like that, and I want it to kind of cover all 3 layers. And then for my envelope and the middle of my card, I'm going to just go back with the bunch of grapes and the Merry Merlot ink, and pop that on that's my inside layer, and here's my envelope. Just want to make sure that the envelope's the right way up, like that. And then once again I'm just going to use a little, let's get rid of that, I'm just going to use a little of my liquid adhesive, and pop it inside my card. Perfect for writing your greeting on. There we go. And we're done. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this technique. The information on the measurements and everything, as I said, are on my blog, and there's a link below this video. And also on my blog will be a link to my online store where you can buy the supplies to make this card. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Bye for now.